What's up, you guys? Mighty Mike here for another episode of the Mighty Real Estate Investor Podcast. If you're watching here on YouTube or on LinkedIn, definitely subscribe to the show if you want to keep up with everything I got going on. I got just the best investors coming on the show and just dropping the tips, the tools, the tactics for how they're building their businesses and making a greater impact on the world. Today's guest is no different, and I'm super excited to have him on the show. So don't go anywhere. We're about to dive in. The big question is this: how do we as real estate investors find the deals that bring the greatest returns, allowing us to make the biggest impact for good in the world and live a mighty life? You are listening to the Mighty Real Estate Investor Podcast, and I'm your host, Mighty Mike.
This is Ken Wimberly, and you're listening to the Mighty Real Estate Investor Podcast.
Awesome. Welcome, Ken. Thanks, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Listen, ever since I saw your episode, I think it was on Bigger Pockets, and I heard about the Laundrymats story and the different things that you have going on, I was like, I have to have him on my show.
Well, happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's dive in right away and just take just a minute and tell us a little bit about your personal life, you and your personal life.
Personal life. So most importantly, I'm a father of 3 kids. I've got a 19-year-old daughter that's a freshman at Auburn and a son that turns 18 next week. And he will be a freshman at Auburn next week. So I'm going to have 2 at Auburn. So War Damn Eagle. Married to the very beautiful, talented Amber Wimberly, who's the light of my life. And then we've got a 6-year-old, Amber and I, so the first 2 kids from our first marriage. I've got a 6-year-old, Amber and I have a 6-year-old Kai, and he is just a little rock star, kindergartner, amazing dude. We love music, live music. We love traveling. We bought an RV, we bought a ranch. So we spend time doing those kind of fun things. And like this year, we just booked our 6th major concert for the year, which is George Strait. So we just booked that last night. So
Yes.
That's what we do for fun.
I love it. I love it. I go with my girlfriend sometimes to concerts, and my biggest complaint is when they throw beer all over you. If you get too close to the front, that's what happens. But
for sure.
But it's still a lot of fun, and you got a lot of different things going on. You're living the dream that most people want to live, and you're a real humble guy, so I won't go into that too much. But you really are making an impact on the world, and you really have done things in a way that have very, very intentionally positioned you where you are today. And so that's kind of what I want to dive into. Yep. Just to start off, like, how did you even get started? Like, what was your very first real estate deal? Like, how did it go from not being in real estate and then now you're in real estate?
So I'll just bump back 2 years prior to real estate, which ultimately brought me there. I guess I'll go, first of all, I graduated with a degree in finance real estate from TCU. So it was what I wanted to do when I was graduating college, was to get into commercial real estate. I interviewed a handful of places, didn't get picked up anywhere. And so I pursued another path. And a couple of years before I got into the business, I had launched a pizza restaurant. And so that was my first entrepreneurial venture. Owned and operated a pizza restaurant that my partner and I my buddy from the Navy and I launched that together. And we were going to open up 5 of them. Then we are going to help the family that had started that to franchise and go national with it. And those were the grandiose plans. The reality showed up is that we owned it for 18 months and we ended up filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which was just a real shit low point in our lives right there. But it taught me a great deal. Certainly as the years went on and I look back at a lot of things that haven't taught me. So I stayed in the restaurant business for about a year, and then I kind of woke up one day and I realized, man, I'm commuting like 45 miles each way to this restaurant. I'm making $50,000 a year. I'm serving as general manager. If someone doesn't show up, I'm the one that's got to be there. Yeah. And we were 8 months pregnant with Grace, who's now at Auburn. And I'm like, I'm never going to see my daughter. And so I've got to make a change. And that led me into the real estate business. I said, look, I've wanted to do it in the past. Let's make the jump right now and do it. And interviewed with a residential guy who I knew. He was actually with Remax, and talked to him about kind of coming on with him and having him mentor me. And then my uncle set up an interview for a guy that was in commercial real estate. And so I had that interview with him, and small shop in small town in Texas. And He said, look, Ken, I'm not like the big boys there. I said, I don't have a formal training program. I'm not going to pigeonhole into a particular asset class. He's like, so you can kind of chart your own course. He's like, but you got to bring your own computer. You're probably not going to make any money for at least a year. So kind of plan on that. We don't have a salary. We don't have a draw. So, hope you can kind of survive for a while. And somehow that sounded enticing enough that I said, sign me up. And that's what brought me into the business.
Yeah, that's good, man. There's so much I could comment on from the restaurant. Like if you've never worked for a restaurant or been a manager specifically for a restaurant, you really can't understand. 16 hours, sometimes 20 hours a day. Sometimes you're sleeping on the floor. Like I've been there actually, and I was only a general manager for an Arby's, and I turned it around from, them selling drugs out of the drive-through. They're actually where Breaking Bad was filmed, Moriarty, New Mexico. That's where I was the Arby's general manager.
Impressive.
Yeah. And I think they might have based that show on Arby's, because I don't know if they must have. But anyway, so the point with the real estate. So when you transition, like that's what you had to compare it to. So you must have had a little bit of money saved.
$10,000. So we had $10,000 saved, and my wife at the time, she was working, and she was probably making $60,000 as a salesperson. And so we had some income coming in. I had a little bit of money saved up, but it was a huge, huge leap of faith. And look, true to Tom's word that gave me that sales pitch, I didn't make a dime. It was 11 months into my business, and I was working my ass off. I was first in, last out every single day, researching, learning, studying, calling, emailing, doing everything I could to start making contacts and learning the business there. And 11 months after I started, I made my first commission, which was the sale of a small warehouse building, and it was $1,837. That was my part of the first deal. And however, I had been grinding that whole time. I had been meeting people. I had been talking to people. I had been kind of building a pipeline of potential deals. And a month later, I closed my first decent sized deal and got a $20,000 commission check. And so I was like, okay, this is what's possible, right? These are the things that are possible. And I'd started to build that pipeline. And so for, the next year I made 6 figures in the business. And from there, year over year, I continued to kind of grow and scale that business.
That is so powerful. Like, the last couple of guests I've had, we've been focusing on multifamily, and the last couple said that it's almost like a rubber band effect. During that first year, you're making connections, you're building things, you're learning that you don't know what you don't know. And then now that you know what you don't know, now you can actually take action and learn the things you need to know, make the connections you need to make.
Yeah.
And then now that you know that $20,000 check, like you can reverse engineer it. How did it happen? And then you start to scale, and you start to learn from your mistakes. And it's so powerful, though. I think a lot of people discount commercial and not really understand it, because they get caught up in the numbers, like, oh, I'm not a math person or whatever. And so I'm curious, I know you said you're a financial guy, so maybe you never could relate to that because you loved it right away. I'm curious to know what you think about that. Can anybody learn this business?
I think if you're getting commercial real estate, you need to understand numbers. And if you don't, you need to stick with something else. That's my personal opinion. You need to understand some basic numbers right there, because certainly in investment sales, now you could get into the land business, which is what I did for the first 5 or 6 years. And you get into land and not have to really dive in as much of it, like a land and lot sales. But if you're going to get into investment sales, which is what I've done the last 10, 12 years of my brokerage career, is what I did, was all investment sales. It's numbers. It's grinding it out. And these days we buy shopping centers, and it's all running pro formas, grinding out numbers, doing sensitivity analysis in there. You need to understand that kind of stuff. So but you can get that. You don't have to have a background in that, but you have to have a capacity for it. So if you can go take the CCIM curriculum, that'll really tell you, can I get it? And, can I go through CCIM and understand what they're teaching me? Do I get it right there? But I think that's a great foundational curriculum to take.
I love that. It's great feedback because, first of all, CCIM, it has a barrier of entry that, like, if you're not already serious and, like, I think it's a couple grand just for their first starter course. So you
Yeah,
have
for
to be
each
ready.
class. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. So, okay, there's so much we can take from it. So I don't want to linger on that, even though there's so much gold there that we can pick apart and break down. Let's dive into your greatest deal. What is that deal that you walk into the party and you want to share with everybody? Uh, the braggadocious deal.
You know, I guess I'll tell you two things. Okay, one was a deal. I encourage people to invest in other people's deals. I was at a GoBundance mastermind years ago, and I heard someone make the comment. Says, "I'm a small investor in a lot of deals," and that was like a light bulb moment for me because at the time I only had a little bit of investment dollars working for me at the time because I kept saving it up, thinking, "Oh, I need a much bigger down payment to go and get my own deals." And then I was like, "Aha! I could put smaller checks in a lot of other people's deals," and that didn't really resonate with me. So I'll tell you, one of my one of my very best deals was investing in someone else's project. There was he's actually a friend of mine, but he bought a building, and our brokers, as part of, we were a tenant in that building, and so he allowed us to invest in as limited partners in the deal. Which so I took advantage of that. I invested in that deal, and I think it was 2.5 years later. So he had come in, increased the tenancy, increased the rent a little bit, really cleaned it up. He's a great operator. Kind of came in, cleaned up the building, just managed it really, really well. Exited 2.5 years later, and I made a 300+% return on my money. And I was like, that's a hell of a deal right there. And so it's not bad. And then one that we put together, I did a similar deal where I've got a Keller Williams franchise that we own, and I bought a building then that would house our KW office right there. And so we leased it to the KW office, came in and rehabbed it, fixed it up. It was beautiful. And kind of same thing. I went to the key people, said, "Hey, if you guys want to invest in this project, you're going to be kind of physically invested on it. So if you want to be financially invested in it, welcome to." So we took a handful of investors into that. And 5 years later, we exited that property. We re-signed the lease. We exited that property, and we returned 2.7 multiple to our investors, and it was right around 24% investor IRR. That's a pretty salty deal right there. So I was very proud of that as a sponsor to be able to do that for our investors.
I love that. Keller Williams was one of the first brokerages I joined. And I was always curious as I was watching all these people come in and go out and come in and go out. And I had all these opinions, and I don't want to go into that too much, but it's a business, right? Like having a franchise is an
Very
actual
much.
business separate from selling real estate.
Not only is it a business, I mean, it's kudos to KW. I learned so much about when you're running a really tight business. They're very, very good about analyzing their numbers and line by line where your percentages should be coming in with all of your various expenses and paying attention to it every month. So I'm grateful for that opportunity and what I've learned just about being my own business owner in other ventures.
Yeah. And the idea too and this is kind of going back to commercial, is the idea that the building, what is its highest and best use? And if you can put in a company that's earning like a solid amount of money in that place and they're able to pay a higher rents or whatever the situation, right? Like you've given that thing a higher value, right? A higher cap rate depending on who's inside the building, right? Don't want to go into that too much, but I mean, isn't that correct? Like you own the KW business that's in there, but as well as you can have ownership in that property, right?
Yeah. Well, another example, look, I'm in the laundromat business, and so this is what we do today. We're buying real estate, kind of downtrodden real estate that needs a facelift, needs a rehab, and then we're putting our laundromat in there, which is a beautiful, really well done laundromat concept, and then we're matching up other tenants and co-tenants we think would be a good fit with our laundromat, rehabbing the center, bringing immense value to kind of downtrodden centers. And then we either cash flow those with a really nice cash flow coming there, or there's a potential exit opportunity as long as the market continues to be strong.
Yeah, I love the laundromat idea. That's one of the things you talked about on the show with Bigger Pockets. So, like laundromat, like I forget how did you could you tell us again like how you got into laundromats? How did that happen?
It was interesting. We kind of stumbled into it in that it wasn't a business we were looking to get into, but it was the solution to a real estate problem. We had just bought a 50,000 square foot center and had probably 20,000 square feet of vacancy in there. And we were looking to fill that vacancy and um, ended up meeting a laundromat guy at a real estate conference I was at. And so I kind of pitched him our center and told him what we had. And he said, look, send me the details. We'll run an analysis on it. He got back to me a couple weeks later, said, Ken, you've got the perfect perfect location for a laundromat. It's like, well, walk me through. Why do we have the perfect location? And so we kind of studied through that. And it was, demographics, income demographics, number of kind of renters to owners in the area, and then kind of what was around in the competitive landscape. And so I was like, well, this is great. And so I'm like, well, what would you need? Well, we need a 10-year lease, 3-5-year options. We can pay, X dollars in rent. And I'm like, this is beautiful. I'm like, we've got a great new tenant. And we'll come to find out, he was not an operator or a franchisor or anything of the laundromat. What he was an equipment manufacturer's rep. And so he's like, let me put you in touch with a distributor. We'll try to get you an operator. Well, that 6 months went by, no operator for where we were. We were in Abilene, Texas, so no operator. And so I started talking to my real estate partner. I said, what if we looked into this as becoming the operator? And one of the things we realized by this time in our lives, just a few years ago, we were, both approaching 50 and had finally realized that, we're great starters. We're really great starters and visionaries and seeing things and mapping out a future. We are not great operators in the weeds, handling the details of it. And so we needed to get an operating partner. And there was a guy that I'd been wanting to be in business with for many, many years. And we approached him, asked him, would you be interested in exploring this opportunity with us? Yes. Fast forward a year of studying the industry and really making sure that it was something we wanted to do. And then we had come up with our concept. We'd come up with, how we could give back. And so our concept is called Laundry Luv, LUV. And, we've got a dedicated children's play area in our laundromats. Like our vision in the future is to be like the Chick-fil-A of laundromats. Where what I mean by that, it's like when a kid my kid drives by Chick-fil-A, it's like, I want to go to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
All right. There's a playscape in there. There's all kinds of great stuff. They love it. They're very consistent in their quality. We want to be that because we've got a play area in our laundromats. We've got a children's literacy area in our laundromats where we bring in books every single month, and we encourage the kids to take the books home, right? Hey, this is the kind of gift of laundromat right here, of Laundry Luv, because what we've realized through our studying the industry and is that 1 in 300 households in like impoverished areas have books for their children to read. So we're trying to make a little bit of a dent in that every month in giving out books and kind of contributing to that and contributing to positive programming. Our TVs will only show positive programming. So they can't watch. We don't let our employees put on like daytime TV, no news, no negativity, no junk right there. So it's it's DIY, home
There's so
improvement,
much
discovery.
There's so much. So first thing is having the awareness that you weren't going to just dive into this and be the operator is golden. I mean, if you don't take anything, because you could have been, and you probably would have been successful.
Look, this is 50 years of failing, and so, but yeah, that's the important thing of listening to other people. Sometimes you don't have to make the same mistakes. You can hear that and have a little aha go on right there. And so, know what you're good at. Really know your strength zone right there. And I'm really good at kind of planning, seeing an opportunity, and putting together a team. Okay, that part I'm good at, and staying on top and providing insight into it. Great at that. But when it comes to the weeds, you're right. I can do it, but I lose my energy real quick doing that, and it's not my strength zone.
Yeah, and then once you say yes to that, you're saying no to everything else because you
100%.
don't have time to do everything. So the other thing that really hits me as a multifamily guy, someone who loves multifamily, whenever you want to add these coin machine, any kind of service that you're going to add, it's like a lot of times people look at it like, so you're not going to have washers and dryers in the units, right? That's a big negative for a lot of people when you're doing new construction multifamily. But if you had something like this in conjunction with it, where you had like a laundromat that had this thing for the kids, it would almost be like going to the park. It'd be like, why would I go wash laundry at home and then I by myself here? I could go to the park, you
Well,
know?
listen, if any of your listeners are buying old laundromats in a location that needs a really new, beautiful, clean, or buying old multifamily complexes that need a new, beautiful, clean laundromat, they need to let me know, and we'll assess that area and potentially look at bringing a location out there.
For real, definitely. That is a great idea. Great idea, especially if it already has a laundromat location and it's just old. And I got to be honest, there's been some times I've had to go to laundromats early on in my life, and or even traveling, and it's never a pleasant experience ever. I've actually gotten a fight in a laundromat. One of my only fights I've ever been in.
Yeah, that's kind of the reputation of the industry. There's some coming out now that, like us and others like us, that are really going like, damn, this is pretty amazing. But the vast majority of the industry, that's not what it is. The handful of folks that are coming out and doing it right, I think, are going to really win over the next few years.
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Laundromat. That is great stuff. So I mean, you got all this stuff that you're working on, that you've like dialed in over the years, that's working for you, that's giving you this great life. But what are you working on now that has you most fired up?
Well, look, we kind of started this off is about family. And so what has me most fired up is I am a dad now. I've got bookends now. I've got a kindergartner, a freshman, and a senior right there. So I'm kind of bookending this. But being a dad has always been like a really important priority for me. When my daughter was just 10 months old, so my first child, I had just gotten out of the restaurant business right there. My daughter's just 10 months old. I made a commitment that has been I don't know, it's been like a North Star in my life. And I made the commitment to slow down once a month and write down a story of what was happening in her life or our lives together. And I just had a feeling way back then that, man, I wouldn't remember it all. And I would regret not remembering all the details. And I was like, okay, one thing I could do, I can write down a story. So I started that in 2003. And I continued that over the years, did it in a Word document, frankly, because I can type faster than I can write pen to paper. So I had it in a Word document, and a couple of years later, I'm like, oh, you can insert pictures into a Word doc. So that was cool. And then I learned you put too many pictures in a Word doc, everything crashes, you lose your stuff. So that evolved. I was doing it in Word, but I kept it when my son was born. I started doing it for him as well. And as the years went on, I started using like Evernote when that came out, and I started making my journal entries in Evernote. Then OneNote came out. I liked it better. I was making entries in OneNote. Then, I'm on iPhones eventually, and got rid of the BlackBerry and got an iPhone and started, making entries and notes. What happened is I had entries all over the place, right? I've got it in Word and Evernote, OneNote, notes on my phone. And I had other parents that had started doing the same thing, because I've been sharing this experience for years, and a bunch of other parents started also, capturing memories and writing them down for their kids. And people started reaching out to me saying, Ken, you should create something. You should create something. And finally, 2018, bandwidth opened up in my world that I had the time to do something. I assumed it already existed. In fact, I knew. I was like, this problem has been solved. It already exists. So I went out there and I couldn't find it. There were journaling kind of programs, and there were kind of photo capturing programs, but that was it. You had the kind of bookends there. I was looking for the kind of journal that could be one to many or many to many. I mean, I could write one entry that could be for one child, it could be for 3 child or 10 kids if I had 10 kids, or me and my wife could write entries, as such. So, I was looking for certain things that did not exist out there, and that it would accept photo, video, audio files, do a bunch of things that I wanted it to do, and it just wasn't out there. And so we created what is now Legacy Journal. And man, that's what's got me fired up. We're in 84 countries now around the world. I kind of look at our analytics every day, and it's so cool. Like this morning, there was Canada, there was Uganda. I'm like, wow, that's Sri Lanka. It's really kind of cool to see people from around the world starting to use this. And now we're getting people that are making, hundreds and hundreds of entries as time goes on. So that's what gets me fired up and excited.
That is so cool. Like, it reminds me of back in the day. I literally still have the book, how to code for dummies. I I was going to create the business Facebook for business.
Okay. Yeah.
LinkedIn. I was like, you could have your resume below your profile picture. It'll be more professional. People want to connect with each other. And it was about 2 years later. And turns out he had already created it. It just didn't go national yet.
Right.
But about 2 years later, I saw it and I was like, what? LinkedIn? I was like, that's a great name. And sure enough. So I'm curious because I actually think about this with Facebook because Facebook will tell me, hey, 6 years ago, hey, 10 years ago, that is so cool. But then I can't ever find other things. So like what you're talking about is essentially what Facebook does for you, but you really can't control it. And it's almost impossible to try to find all of your different memories back then. And so if you could put it all in one place and then collaborate with your spouse, and then as your kids become adults, now they're getting into it too. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah. So you're right. We are the anti kind of social media, and that it's super private right here.
Yeah.
And it's an account for you and your family, but it's super easy to find things because we've got a great filter system in here. So I can filter by person, filter by date, year, tag, a variety of things right there. So it's easy to find what you're looking for. You can, tag certain like big events as milestones, like your kid loses their first tooth, their first baseball game, their first date, all these different first right there. And so we built a lot of these things in to make it super easy to find and also like easy to view these different things. When you're ready, you can last year I gave it to my daughter when she graduated high school. So I exported everything to a freestanding HTML webpage, and now she has that. She's got 18 years worth of the stories of her life on this webpage that she can go to anytime and look out and check out.
That is so cool. Do like a domain and forward it. Be like, your future wife or something. She's looking for a spouse.
There you go. Here it is. Everything about her.
That is so cool, man. I'm really excited to check that out. And definitely. So people, I put the website up there, but people could just go there and sign up.
Yeah, legacyjournal.app. Actually, you can sign up straight from your iPhone or Android phone in the Play Store or Apple Store, App Store. You can sign up there. You can, same thing. We got links to that on the website, and kind of tells you a little bit more about what we're about, and kind of some cool blogs on there to kind of talk about best practices and different stuff in there.
Very cool. Well, that is so cool. Like that's the whole idea with the show. And so right after word from our sponsors, we're going to dive into some quick tips, tools, and tactics before we let you go. But I definitely appreciate your time. And guys, don't go anywhere because we're going to head and get into it in just a minute. Mighty Nation, I hope you guys are enjoying this episode. I'm just breaking in really briefly to let you know about today's sponsor, Audible. They're offering to give my listeners 30-day free trial of their service. Audible has hundreds and hundreds of books. I have some of my favorite books listed up over here. You can go to mightyfreebook.com and get your 30-day free trial. You get a free book. And if after the 30 days are up, you decide you no longer want to be a part of it, you can actually cancel, no strings attached, and never have to pay anything and have a free, awesome book. Check out all these cool books over here. Go check out mightyfreebook.com. Let's dive back into the show. Okay, guys, welcome back to the show. Ken, are you ready to do some mighty flexing?
Let's do it.
All right. So one of the first questions I like to ask here in the Mighty Flex round, we just kind of go through these questions quickly and wrap things up. What book would you recommend?
I didn't read it until I was 40. Think and Grow Rich. If you haven't read it, it's a absolute keystone book you got to read. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. You want to follow that up, and a little thing, he's got an Audible called In His Words or In His Own Words, which is him teaching the deeper concepts beneath Think and Grow Rich at I think he was teaching in Chicago there, and it's literally him, his voice teaching. It's amazing.
Really? Yep. I didn't know that. I'm all over Audible. It was Napoleon Hill teaching?
Yeah, Napoleon Hill. I think it's In His Words or In His Own Words. It's absolutely amazing. Audible.
I'm gonna look that up.
Perfect after your sponsor right there. We talk about Audible.
That's great. Yeah. Oh yeah. Very strategic with that. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. And then is there this is something everybody always talks about, and every real estate investor just has to know, even commercial broker real estate agents, is what's your favorite way to find deals?
People. It's networking. For me, it's relationships and networking. And so I've got broker networks, investor networks, just mentor networks. And so my favorite way to find deals is talking to people.
I love it. Yeah. And what's funny too is once you reach a certain level, because I feel like, when I started and a lot of the guys that I talk to that just get started, they're very tactical. Everything is about like sending mailers and, text blasting and cold calling and all this. But when you reach a certain level, whether you're an agent or just an investor, you're just getting deals sent to you.
Okay, look, I'll tell you this related to that. I was calling on a piece of land to potentially build a laundromat on. And it's conversations. This is what I'm getting at. It's conversations with people. I'm talking to this lady. She's been in the commercial real estate business. She's literally in her 80s, right? So she's, probably has forgotten more about real estate than I've known. And just great lady. And we were talking about her land. She was the owner of the land. And we were going to talk about what we want to do the laundromat. And we mutually decided that her land wasn't a fit for us, right? Just for a couple of reasons. But 2 hours later, she calls me. She says, "Hey, Ken, the shopping center is about to go on sale next week. And I just talked to the broker. It'd probably be a good fit for your laundromat. I'm now under contract for that shopping center." Right. So it's conversations you have with people that
Love it.
Love it.
Tactics, just hand-to-hand combat. They say that's what they say. Get out there, make connections with people, talk to people. And then I love when you said that she called and she goes, "Ken," like she knows you. It's not like you're just some guy that called her. She knows you.
Yeah, that was it.
That's good stuff. All right. So is there any specific software? These are the tactics and tools, right? Is there any software that makes your life easier?
I still use to this day RealNex for a lot of our assessment. RealNex has bought and assimilated, I guess, multiple different companies into their platform of products. And so for me, it's I've used that for a bunch of years. We use that for our CRM and for my financial analysis. It's of properties.
Very cool. That's a great tip. RealNex. Okay, and then kind of diving into some more tips here. What's your favorite way to fund a deal?
OPP or OPM. so other people's money. It's we syndicate a fair amount of deals when we do them, and for a variety of reasons. Number one, we have limited capital. I'm not to that level where I've got unlimited capital there. So using investors, funds, primarily it's a one-off network of ours. We don't go to a big, broad network. I've just got enough people that we know in our world that like to invest in deals with us. We've been able to return some healthy returns to folks in the past. So it's not difficult. People are looking for opportunities where they can get in and win, and with someone else doing the work.
Well, it's like you were saying with returns like 24%, things like that, like IRRs for 20. That is really good. Like, the idea that someone could just throw some cash at you and get back 24% is definitely not going to be a hard sell, especially if you did it once. You can go right back to them and be like, "Hey, I got another one." Yeah. So good stuff. And then this kind of leads into that, but like a JV partner. So like if you're ever going in on a deal and you're going to like kind of be a general partner with somebody else, like what do you look for? Because it sounds like you've done that a lot in your journey here. What do you look for in a good JV partner?
Man, and I've had partner issues in the past as well, and so it's I think it's really important in any partner you get into business with to really understand, are your values aligned? Are you kind of morally aligned? Are your values aligned with each other right there? If they are, you can probably work through a lot of things right there. And it's probably easy for people to jump into that without really thinking through that. I also think even if they are, it's really important to have your partnership agreement in place. A partnership agreement should be called a partnership disagreement, because that's when people are going to go dig in and look into it right there. And important to have buy-sell provisions in place, push-pull clauses, really make sure you've kind of death and divorce provisions in there. So there's a lot of little things you got to pay attention to. And then depending on what you're doing with your partners, like with my laundromat partners, we're equal partners, the three of us, and we each have unique equal strengths that combined, 1 + 1 + 1 = 7. It really
Yes.
does. It's absolutely amazing. So finding complementary strengths right there.
I love that. Yeah, get it in contract, plan your exit. You're going to exit. You're not going to like die. This isn't the notebook of business. We're going to lay in bed and die with them. Okay. You're going to end up breaking up some point. Who knows? It could be when you're both 80, 90 years old or whatever, but you're going to break up at some point. When you do, what happens to that asset? What's the plan? I love that. I tell everybody going in on any business deal, also just like understanding, like you said, you're all equal partners, like also understanding who's doing what, and if everyone disagrees, who's the one who gets the last say.
Really important.
Someone has to, yeah, or have a third, independent party. Good stuff. I love that. And then kind of the last tactical question is like property management. Do you find it, better to just hire someone who's local, or do you do your own property management?
We hire, we typically hire local people right there. And it's, the local property managers and we're in several different markets right there. So it's kind of important for us to, we've done out of town. We had a miserable experience with a, out of town, big city based property manager that was going to handle everything. I mean, absolutely miserable. Like, lady actually sued us, or sued my partner, to keep us from terminating her agreement. It was a miserable experience. So, but we've had very good experience with local property managers that understand the market, understand the asset, understand our goals and desires.
That's good. And things are moving quickly in the property management world too, from being just like a flat percentage to actually just charging like transaction fee, flat fees on specific duties that you want them to do. And so it comes out to around the same price, but they're actually held to a higher standard. And so I think you're smart. The local stuff is always better, because then you could get the best ROI and control the costs and things like that. That's really good. Okay, so wrapping things up here, this is where we get into some of the stuff that's going to help you guys. So take out your notebooks. Okay, you're going to write it down.
A lot of pressure here.
I know. No, dude, you're coming with the heat, really, seriously. So what is the greatest advice you've ever received?
One of the great, it's hard to pin it down and say greatest, but one of the great bits of advice I received was to hire a business coach. And I did that in 2010. I hired my first business coach. And since then, I've always had some type of coaching in my life right there. And, when I was really heavy in the brokerage business for a bunch of years, I took a business that I was doing $7 to $10 million a year, and I scaled it to $120 million a year in sales right there. And then that led to opportunities to open up a Keller Williams franchise, to start investing, to start the laundromat, all this other stuff. So, and that was, it started from a business coach that had a different perspective than what I'm mired in here, and he's up here looking at me. And then, I've done a lot of coaching myself through that. And I think it's one of the most important things I can tell someone is you need accountability in your life. And if you're paying for that accountability with a coach and someone that's really skilled, one of the best things you can do.
It's so powerful to have that. I love that. Great advice. You care about what you pay for. That's one big thing. You're going to put more effort in on things. I was one of the top salesmen at this portraits company, Ken, and I just blew everyone out of the water, right? I'd be like 1,000 to 1 type of thing, really. And when I was a kid, and nobody was showing up to the appointments. I mean, I had more people showing up for these portrait appointments than anybody else, but the percentages were so low because the value that they had to put in was $10 to book the appointment. That was my commission.
Okay.
And so, people really, when it's almost nothing, whenever I would give away an appointment or something like that, they just wouldn't show up.
Yeah.
And so, you invest in a coach, also, they're going to give you that different mindset. Like for me, the health coach, the cold calling coach, the spiritual coach, somebody who, at church that you meet with, that like helps you realign your values. So powerful. So kind of transitioning, what advice would you give to those that are looking to get started in real estate?
Okay. I'll tell you. number one, you got to put in the work. It's a lot of knowledge, of work. It's the 10,000 hour rule. I mean, so do the math on the 10,000 hour rule. That's 5 years of full-time work to get to mastery in something. And it takes time to truly master something. So there's one. You got to do the work. You got to log the hours. You got to put in the reps. Number two, you got to figure out how to become a source of value to everyone that you engage with. And that value can sometimes comes in a lot of different ways. For me, I finally figured out years later, I'd gotten to be a really disciplined person through a number of years, and just my own accountability and the processes I put into place for myself. And so I started having clients of mine ask me to be their accountability partner and ask me about fitness advice, because I went on a big fitness journey, and not at all real estate related. That was a business I was in, it was real estate, but I was then developing a deeper relationship with them that ultimately led to friendships. That ultimately led to partnerships with people, because I was a source of value in ways that I was uniquely qualified for. So figure out ways to be a source of value in what is of interest to the person you're talking to right there.
It's so powerful. And if you can help people, like you're saying, that are in a position that is higher than you, that is one thing I noticed too. You know, if you're helping folks that are homeless, that's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. Definitely a good thing. But if you go and you start helping people solve problems that they don't want to solve, and they have money, they will give it to you. That's kind of how it
Doors
goes.
will start to open, I assure you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So closing out here, Ken, you've told me a lot about what you got going on, the journal and things. But this question I always wrap up the show with, because it's really the reason why I do the show, building the network and all that. But the deep down reason is to help make the world a better place. So what would you do if you had accomplished all your financial goals today? Okay. And money was no object. What would you do to make the biggest impact on the world?
So here's the crazy interesting thing about my life. And I have not solved all of my money, things to solve, but I am doing the two things right now that I would do. And that's with Legacy Journal and helping dads, moms connect at a deeper level with their kids and collect memories and stories and things that will live on for literally generations, right? That's something that's amazing. The most precious thing you can leave behind when you're gone is the love that you've had and the stories that will carry on that love right there. So that's one. And then with Laundry Love, I mean, what we're doing right there with kids and literacy and being able to help, I mean, we are making an impact. We've got kids from the local universities that are coming in to read to these children, and we're making an impact right there. And so I'm doing a couple of things right now that I just feel grateful to be a part of, and I really feel like are making an impact. No matter how small or how big that den is right there, we are making an impact.
I love it. I positioned the question when I first wrote it was actually like, a lot of people we're all trying to get where we're trying to go and stuff. We can't buy an island yet. So if you could buy an island, what would you do instead of buying an island? But I love your answer, because it's really all about take action now in whatever way you can, so that when the time comes that you are there, you already know your values. You already know the things that matter most to you. And at the end of the day, like, we can all lift where we stand. We can all do something.
And I'll just pile onto that and say that, we don't know how much time we have, right? You think, I'm going to be where I need to be in 5 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. We don't know how much time. You don't know if you have 5 years left. You know, if you have 5 days left, right? So we can do whatever we can today to live your best life today. That's the important thing.
I love that. That is so true. That is so true. And I just appreciate you coming on. What is the best way that we can keep up with everything you have going on?
Because I am on Facebook, although I don't use it all the time, but you can go, I'm at Lord Wimberly on Facebook, and then certainly check out legacyjournal.app and laundryluv.com. And you kind of hear a lot about what we're doing right there. And, for anyone, if people want to connect with me on family connections, going deeper, fatherhood kind of things, they can email me, Ken at legacyofluv.app. Legacy of Love is our corporate name. So Ken at legacyofluv.app.
Well, Ken, I want to personally thank you for being on the show. I've been impressed with your story ever since I first heard it, and I'm excited to share it with the world.
Hey, thank you for doing that. I'm grateful for you and what you're doing there.
Absolutely. Well, guys, until next time, go check out the website, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite audio platform. Guys, you've heard that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Today, you've been flexing those inspiration muscles with Mighty Mike and Ken Wimberly, the labor of love, Laundry Love, and all the different things he has going on. Just so much value here today. So go check out his stuff that he has going on, and listen, build your network so you can build a mighty net worth and make a bigger impact on the world. Until next time, guys, flex those muscles. Come on, Ken. Awesome good stuff. See you guys. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If you want more of the tips, tools, and tactics to take your real estate investing to the next level, go get a free copy of my latest book at mightyfreebook.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite audio platform.